Hey, everybody, you're live with Amy Register, and you're also live with my mom, Teresa Register, the home health mentor. Um, we usually talk about stuff that has to do with administration, getting ready for surveys, but there's been some changes in the world since we talked to you a couple of weeks ago, and my mom is passionate about making sure that people's rights are preserved. And so I want to say this just to cover my butt because I work for a religious organization and I have a couple side hustles. And I just want to let you know that my mom and I see eye to eye on one thing in this, which is that we would like everyone to have freedom to make their own decisions about what goes into their body. And while I am vaccinated at the request of my employer and to do my job, I really, really, really want to protect people's rights if they don't want to for a variety of reasons. And so today we're celebrating our ability to choose, and we hope that's not off putting. This is particularly an episode for people who feel like their jobs or livelihood is threatened because of vaccine mandates. And so just getting that caveat out of the way. Yeah, this is about protecting personal freedoms, and you might not believe the same way, but it's so nice to just be able to talk about it normally and naturally and not controversially. So, with that, here's my mama. And Teresa, do you want to give us a little bit of a background on why your blood is pumping this week? What's going on with you and the vaccine mandates issue?
Well, Amy, I think it's kind of funny that you prefaced the conversation the way you did, because I do very much support individual freedoms and the right to choose. However, what I wanted to talk about during this podcast is partly just where things stand on the federal vaccine mandates and where we stand as far as home health agencies being required to, insist or put a deadline on their employees as far as a date that they would, want them or require them to be vaccinated. So yeah, let me just kind of introduce it this way. In our past podcasts, I focused on issues that were directly related to the existing conditions of participation for home health and how agency administrators would prepare for those upcoming surveys. Now, in the present environment, we're all kind of in limbo. Clearly, there is now a question whether CMS has actually made vaccine mandates a condition of participation or not. There's people who think that requirement is already in place. There are people who think OSHA already has penalties in place and mandating home health agencies to have their staff vaccinated. So what I want to do is just be very clear that currently we have no mandate in place by CMS or OSHA to specifically require our employees or contractors to be vaccinated against COVID. The wording on these regulations are still in the process of being discussed and written. I did contact a number of colleagues of mine who are in the accreditation business and asked whether or not they have been instructed to cite any agencies who don't have a certain percentage of their employees vaccinated, or, where things stand as far as tracking who is or who is not vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And I was told we haven't even had that discussion. So if you're going to have a survey, You might want to call your accrediting organization or the state and confirm what I'm telling you, because I don't know when you're going to actually hear this message. But today, on the 8th of October, 2021, we do not have any specific verbiage or regulation that says that every home health agency has to have X number of people or X number of percentage of people vaccinated as of today or a certain date. Now, all that being said, we are expecting there to be some kind of mandate that affects our agencies. We just don't know, what that's going to look like. So, sorry, I've got to clear my throat here.
Okay.
It is interesting to me that of all the groups of people who have said they don't want to take vaccines, the largest group, percentage-wise, is healthcare workers.
It's not the Marines anymore?
Well, I guess you could call them, employees of the federal government. I'm thinking in terms of employees in our country, but yeah, healthcare workers have been pretty vocal about their concerns about the vaccines. And while many people have chosen to get them, and again, Amy, I support people having the freedom to get them if they want them. What I don't like is when people are being pressured or coerced and they're being left out of the loop as far as all of the information that they need to make informed consent. And so that's my issue. I also am concerned when, there's a push for vaccinating people whose benefit and risk ratio is, we know that certain groups just are, at higher risk for side effects than they are for getting a serious case of COVID. So, there's some real science, and then there's some rumors. And my objection is when people are being coerced or, a carrot being held in front of them, or, they're somehow being enticed to make a decision that they wouldn't otherwise want to make. So it's again, freedom to choose what they think is best for them after they're given all of the appropriate information. So that's where I stand on it. But the real reason I wanted to address it is because there are a lot of owners, a lot of healthcare workers in home health that believe that we currently have a CMS requirement, and we're still waiting to see what we're going to be told about whether or not they're going to make it a condition of participation to receive payment, or if so, how that's going to be reported, how we're going to collect that information, whether people have the right to withhold that information from an employer because of, HIPAA regulations or rights of privacy or Title VII, of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There's all kinds of litigation that is going on right now, but most of the challenges, the legal challenges, are on hold because the actual rules have not been released yet. As soon as CMS and OSHA publish what they must publish before this goes into effect, that's when you will see a lot of lawsuits, because there will be a lot of objections to the vaccines. And so the owners that want to encourage their employees to be vaccinated, they certainly have the right to ask them or to promote it and say, we think it's a good idea.
Right.
But at this point, it would be untrue that there's a federal mandate by CMS or OSHA.
Mm-hmm.
So if an owner or the administrator, if they're concerned about losing good nurses or therapists or other kinds of healthcare workers over this vaccine mandate, my suggestion is to have a plan in place either way,
Mm-hmm.
but be just be patient until you actually see what comes out in writing.
Hold steady.
What?
Just hold steady for a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't freak out.
Yes.
But we are hoping, of course, that there's going to be an option for regular testing or vaccination, right?
So here's the thing. If you look at the science, and if people are honest, we have a lot of information now that we didn't have even a month ago. Mm-hmm. We have studies, we have research that's come out that we're seeing, a fairly hefty increase in people who have been fully vaccinated. We've seen that they're getting COVID. We're also seeing in research coming out of Israel, which of course mandated all of their citizens, pretty much to be vaccinated. And we're seeing that anyone who was vaccinated compared with those who were not vaccinated, we're seeing that there's a lot of good immunity. In fact, better immunity if you have had COVID and recovered from it as compared with getting the vaccinations. So there's a lot of stuff that we're just now learning. And I think a lot of these issues are going to be discussed and debated, and there's going to be, people on both sides. I've seen and been involved this past week at our state capitol. I've heard so many, discussions, and we have been trying to pass legislation in Arkansas that gives people the right to submit requests for exemptions based on their right of privacy and their right to choose and to not lose their job over their choice. So what we've been doing, what I've been doing the last 5 days is listening to all the pros and cons and the benefits and the concerns that people have. And honestly, I can see both sides. I can see that there are businesses that are concerned that they'll lose contracts if they don't get their employees vaccinated. And then I hear hospitals and home health agencies and other people in the healthcare field who say, we're already short-staffed. If we mandate this, we've got a lot of our staff who are just going to quit, or we're going to have to terminate them. So what I'm trying to do is to put something out there that I think is reasonable. And what I think is reasonable is that we accept what we have always accepted. We have always accepted medical exemptions or religious exemptions. And with this particular virus, if somebody has had COVID and they have developed an immunity to it, they're no longer at risk themselves, nor are they at risk to give it to someone else. So I would think that that's appropriate reason for them to be exempt as well. So
Well,
antibody testing, go
I
ahead.
really that was a longer answer than I was looking for. Like, I don't know if it's going away. I hope it does. I hope it's a non-issue. I hope people could get an exemption for certain reasons. Um, but either way, what I was asking is that if you think that there will be at least a place for people to get regular testing, does that sound like, even if they are mandating some kind of solution so they can cover their butts, do you think it will be vaccine or regular testing?
Well, it's not an either or, I don't think. I think there will be regular testing available. It is not nearly as expensive as some people have tried to make it sound. However, you've got two issues here. You've got PCR testing, which is, what's maybe in someone's nasal passage right now, versus a blood test that shows that they have a high level of permanent immunity. Mm-hmm. So if somebody who wants to work in healthcare has a blood test that shows that they are immune to COVID-19, they shouldn't have to do any additional testing because it's like any other.
We just hope that the answer would be yes. Either way, that would be a workaround for now until we could get even more data and
some type of testing.
Settle the heck down about this situation.
Yes. Get back to some sanity. So
get back to work.
So one thing that I've found a lot of people don't realize is that when any virus is in the animal population, you are not going to vaccinate your way out of the virus. And with COVID-19, many different types of animals not only can get it, but have gotten it. They tested white-tailed deer, and 40% of those deer had COVID-19. So when, obviously we're not going to vaccinate every animal out there that has COVID-19. So they're communicating those viruses, all around us. So we're not going to vaccinate our way out of this. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're just not. It's like the flu. We're never going to get rid of the flu. We're never going to get rid of this particular virus. It's going to be with us. So the question out there is, how can we make sure that our staff are not going to communicate it to other people, to our patients, to coworkers? So, any kind of blood test that shows that they have permanent immunity or a high level of current immunity, they don't need weekly testing. If they have not had it and they don't want to be vaccinated, then yes, in my opinion, there should be other types of monitoring and testing that should be made available. To me, that just makes sense. But, I guess the bottom line is we're going to have to wait and see after all the bantering and arguing and discussion. We'll have to see where the issue finally comes to rest and see what CMS and OSHA are prepared to put in writing, knowing that this is going to be a big deal. So, so for all of the home health agencies that are concerned, just keep in mind that you're probably already doing many of the things that OSHA is going to require. Mm-hmm. The only thing that, a couple areas that I think some home health agencies are not keeping up with very well. There's the material safety data sheets that that OSHA requires that you keep on every product, that you have all your cleaners and different chemicals that you might have in your agency. So you might want to make sure that you're in compliance with that. Your signage for fire safety, and then there's some other specifics that apply to COVID-19. And as you know, Amy, I wrote a respiratory protection plan. Every agency is required to have one. And if an agency doesn't have one, that is something that they should, make sure they have before we get too much farther down the road. So,
shameless plug. Available on our website.
Well, I had offered it for free. So, originally, if people wanted it, they could have had it for free. So, yeah.
But now we're going to make the big bucks off it. Just to keep it very reasonable.
The other thing that I'll put in a shameless plug for is that I do have a set of 3 letters that I would be happy to share with anyone who needs it to submit a request for an exemption. And they can go to the Home Health Mentor Facebook page and request that, and we'll send it out to them, or at least tell them where they can get it. Hopefully we can put it in one place so I don't have to be busy all afternoon sending out
I
copies.
actually looked it up. I can put it on our website for free. So
Okay.
You guys will be able to find it within the next couple of hours under just our regular product tab. I don't know what it's called. What's the title of it, Mom? What do we call it?
I think I just entitled it Sample Exemption Letters.
Okay.
And
I'll put it under exemption letters, and it might look like there's a price, but when you go to checkout, it'll be $0.00. So
right,
I think I can
right.
do that.
I did get about 40 requests for it within less than an hour this afternoon, and I've been sending copies out to people, but to individual email addresses, but that was very time consuming. So it would be much better if people would just go to the website and
homehealthmentor.com.
Thank you. Yes.
I'll put it up right after we finish this interview. I know it takes a few minutes for processing, so check back within a couple hours and it should be
right. There. Okay. So I guess let me just summarize. Agency owners who don't want to mandate the vaccines for their staff, or if they're concerned that they're going to lose valuable employees, because we know, for example, it costs right around $50,000 to recruit and retain an RN.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we don't want agencies losing good people. So if owners and administrators are concerned about that, and you want to be able to sit tight and wait to see what comes down the pike, I think that would be a reasonable approach. You probably should have a backup plan and know how you're going to handle it, under a few different scenarios. Mm-hmm. So, again, just to be very clear, there currently is no condition of participation in place. And I will be very surprised if CMS and OSHA don't allow certain kinds of exemptions. So,
okay. Just besides this letter that they can pick up on your website, thehomehealthmentor.com, in a couple hours, if somebody's feeling pressured from their employer, or really maybe their employer just doesn't know and they are freaking out, how should they go about it? Where does the letter go to, I guess? Who does the letter go to?
Normally, if an organization is asking the employee for, either their vaccination status or asking them to submit a letter, they will inform them where that letter needs to go. Okay. Usually it would go through either their supervisor in a smaller company, or their human resources department if it's a larger organization that has a human resource division. So kind of depends on the size of the agency. But whoever tells you, we need to know your vaccination status, are you going to be vaccinated, we need something in writing from you, they should also tell you where to submit it. And I would encourage anyone who wants to be exempted to absolutely put that in writing and submit it. Make sure you keep a copy, keep the information when you submitted it, to whom you submitted it, and make sure that that you are prepared to defend whatever you put in your letter.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've heard that some people are discouraged because they have submitted letters of request for a religious exemption, and that those are not being honored. All I can say is, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 says that they cannot require you to comply with a vaccination against your religious views. And there is a caveat. It says, it has to be a sincerely held belief.
Yeah.
You also need to know that you do not have to belong to an organized religion to have a religious exemption. You also you're not required by law to have a pastor or, religious advocate write a letter for you. Your letter should be legal. And again, you are not required by law to belong to any formal religious group.
Yeah, that's important. I know that there are some pastors who will write that for you and say that after, conferring with you, they do find it's your personal religious view, even if that's not what the church teaches or is adhering to. I know that there are some who just won't do that. So that is important to know that we do live in America, guys, and your freedoms are your freedoms as long as we have them. So that's kind of cool. I was talking to my mom about some Afghans who have been contacting me about what's going on in their country and cities. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we still have what we have. So we'll put that spin on it here at the end. As confrontational and upsetting as this stuff is, we still have so much to be thankful for. And we appreciate your attitude and your time spent, Teresa, in trying to figure this stuff out for folks.
Yeah, I really just want to make sure that people have some exemptions if they apply. Obviously, I'm not in favor of making things up, but when it's valid, it's valid.
Yeah. All right. Anything else for today? This has been another Q&A Friday with the Home Health Mentor.
I just hope everyone is doing well out there. I know a lot of agencies are having a really rough time right now, not only because of COVID, but because of all of this stuff related to the vaccine mandates and people not wanting to get the shots and, saying they're going to leave. So everybody's really, hyped up right now. So, yeah. So it's a rough time. Just hang in there and try and stay focused on patient care, and we'll see what happens with the regulations.
Yeah. All right. Good final words. We will most likely see you next Friday. So until then, you can get a hold of Teresa, the Home Health Mentor, on Facebook. You can leave comments on her YouTube channel. And so check back on the website in a couple hours if you would like a free copy of what we've been talking about today, which is some different exemption letter opportunities. That's it for now. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.